Hello everyone, it's Miss Darling in the studio. Welcome. Today we're going to be discussing and making one of my favorite things, as you probably know if you've been with me for any while. We're going to be making another masterboard. I'm calling these pattern masterboards, and they're all made from torn fabric. These are all fabrics that I have used in some way or another in former projects. Excuse me, I'm a little out of breath. I had to run downstairs and deliver a message to my husband and come back up, and that's a little tiring for an old gal. So anyway, on with our topic. So I've made one already in the sense that I have put a little glue on the back of each piece that makes this up, and then I'll be taking it to the sewing machine after we get the second one made and sewing them down in place. And so that's kind of what we'll be doing. So I wanted to talk to you, well, first a little bit about color. This particular one has actually two color palettes working together. We have the red and green, which are our Christmas colors. They're opposite each other on the color wheel, and so we call them complementary colors. But we also have colors that are adjacent to each other on the color wheel that we refer to as analogous color scheme, and that's our red, orange, yellow. Okay, so we've got all that going on, but I want you to notice the mix is really heavy on pattern. So when you're working with very busy fabrics, anything with pattern, even if it's paper, you want to make sure that you use it more than one time. And that repetition brings unity and cohesion to your entire masterboard. If every little piece here were different from all the others, and there was no repetition at all, it would look even more busy. And so we want to try to cut down on that by repeating different pieces more than one time. So as you can see, this dark green here with the foliage pattern is repeated here and repeated over here. This ruler with the numbers on it is repeated over here. And this kind of custard color here, this is from the same fabric, and this is from the same fabric. So that's repeated 3 times. These two yellows are from the same fabric. We've got these two green and red up here. And let's see, this one has a mate over here. And this one here is repeated 3 times. So when you're repeating, you want to try to get them spread out from each other. Don't, put them side by side. That doesn't do you much good at all. And so pattern-wise, we want to distribute each of the colors around the whole masterboard. And this is on a regular sheet of cardstock, 8.5 by 11 is the size. And so you can see that even though there's a lot going on, there's also some unity to it because of the repetition. So I'm going to set this one aside. I will be sewing it later. And now the second one, these are not, it's just laid in there. It's not been glued down in any way. And you can see that while there's a lot going on in this too, it's not quite as busy looking, simply because the pieces, the individual pieces, are larger. And so I needed fewer actual pieces because everything was a little bit bigger. But still, you can see that there's a lot of pattern here mixed together. Now, this one is repeated over here and down here. This one is only repeated right up here. So it's the only one that's kind of a, oh no, it isn't the only one that isn't repeated. But see, this one is repeated here. These two are from the same piece. This is a solo. And this is a solo. So I do have more in this one where there's only one piece from that fabric, but I don't need as much repetition in this in order to have a pleasing composition overall. And so the busier one, this one I would probably not use as pages in a journal. I will make copies of everything I make, but some of them just aren't appropriate for a page. They're just too all over the place. So, but this is a great masterboard to cut up into smaller pieces and make tags and art cards, postcards, bookmarks, or just ephemera to glue onto other substrates. So this one would not be that appropriate as 2 journal pages, but this one would be. It is less busy, and I think it just works nice if you can picture, say, the center being right here. Then we've got, let me see. That could be 1 page. And then this would be 1 page. Okay? So you can see that it has probably more purpose that you could use this for. You could also make a copy of this and cut it up as well to make smaller ephemera, or just, use it as 2 pages in a journal, or I think it's strong enough it could even be a cover design, perhaps, depending on, the theme of what you're working with. So now all I got to do is glue this down into position. Let me talk a little bit about the positioning of this one. This is actually a little tag off of one of the fabrics, and I just liked it. I'm going to kind of throw it in there, and so it's a part of it, but it's not, really standing out and taking all the attention to itself. So generally, when I'm starting a composition, I like to kind of lay in my corner pieces quite soon, and especially on the bottom, because that's where the visual weight is going to need to be, regardless of what I'm going to do with the masterboard. So I want it to be strong on the bottom so it feels supportive to what's above it. And so I usually lock in my corner pieces quite soon, and then after I've done that, then just moving the other pieces around until you get a pleasing composition is really quite easy. So if you want to know how to start these, that's how I do it. You don't have to do it that way, obviously, but I think it really works for me. So now I'm not going to be gluing these down all the way. I'm just going to put enough of this glue stick on the back to hold it in place, so that when I go take it to sew, that the pieces don't fall away and I lose my composition. So, you know, you don't need a whole lot of glue, just enough to this fabric is a knit, so it wants to stretch when I try to glue it. The other reason I lock in my corners is that to make sure that they're adequately covered. And you know, so then, for instance, if you lay your corners in, then all you have to do is make sure you have full coverage in some way in the middle area of your field, and you don't have to worry about how it's all going to come out at the corner, because that was all done first. Okay, so see, I'm laying that in right away, and then that leaves me the option when I come to a middle piece of moving it left or right however I need it to go. So that's just the method to my madness. So I'm gonna now lay down this corner. Now I think I've got like a fold over of the fabric here. I think I'll put that on the outside. It doesn't make any difference with the pattern of this piece, which way it goes. So that's going to drop in there. This will drop in over that. So now my next part to solve here will be this outer section. Again, working from the outside inward. We had a piece hidden in here. I think this was a repeat piece. I made a picture of this. So let me refresh my memory. Okay, I guess I wasn't using this at all. It just got in there. So this one comes next. Okay. When you have something this busy, it's a good idea once you lay out your composition, if you can, take a photo of it so that when you're actually gluing them down, you get them in the right place, because it's very easy to wind up putting it in the wrong spot. And of course, once they're glued down or sewed down, you can't move them after that. So that's going to drop in there. Okay, so This fabric here is something I tie-dyed several years ago. I was in the fashion business and I was making jewelry, and I got into tie-dyeing fabrics and turning them into scarves to go with my jewelry. That is a tough business to be in because there is so much competition. But it is very creative. Okay, and I just need to drop this little piece in. And I think I'm gonna, it's a nice thing about not gluing down your edges is you can adjust which pieces go on top and which ones are overlapped. Okay, there we go. So now all I have to do is sew it down and make photocopies, and we're off to the races. Alright, I'm back, and as you can see, I did some sewing. I did zigzag on the perimeter and then a straight stitch in the middle, and just tried to follow along with the fabrics. This one was very busy, a lot of smaller pieces that I felt I had to go around, and it can wind up looking a little bit messy and grungy, which I like, but you might not. And so if you don't like a lot of sewing on top, then just glue your different pieces down all the way permanently, and then you don't have to sew at all. It is time consuming also to sew, but you can see by the back all the different directions I had to go in order to catch most all of the fabrics so that they don't come apart and fall off. And it's not perfect by any means, and I'm okay with that because you know, I like grunge, I like fringe, and I'm also very big on wabi-sabi, and so I don't mind if I make a mistake. I don't mind if it doesn't come out perfectly. That's all part of, for me, the whole idea of making something that looks vintage, is that it is rough. And my sewing certainly is rough. Anyway, so that's how that one came out. And then here's the one. This was easier to do, a lot less sewing, because the individual pieces, not only are they bigger, but I did line them up with each other more than on the other. And so if you look at the back here, you can see that there was a lot less sewing that was needed. And again, it's not perfect, and I'm okay with that. So this gives you an idea. This is done, of course, with fabric on cardstock. You don't have to use fabric if you've got some wonderful papers that have patterns in them and designs, and they're scraps that are left over. Feel free to do, all paper, and then you can just glue them all down or add some sewing as you like. So anyway, patterned masterboards. They may be a little bit more complicated to do because of the patterns, and of course you have to have a good deal of fabric on hand. Make sure that when you pull fabrics out to use, that you like the colors then. Don't think that once you have it all sewed up and done that you're going to like it any better than you do from the start. Either the colors look good and blend well together and it's pleasing to the eye, or it's just not going to get any better, trust me. So anyway, thanks for being with me and watching this far. I do appreciate it. And so that'll be it for this video. This is Miss Darling calling this a wrap. Bye-bye.